Domingo.
After all of these years, beating my head on the wall, going in and out of the federal building, waiting for the damn thing to fall, and it keeps standing. And people keep going in there to work. All you can do is sing louder, I guess, and wear a big shirt. More than anything else in the world, I need some vocal mnemonics. Anything else in the world needs some Dylan money. Anything else in the world, I can't let you down. That's good. 1, 2, that's good. Now I need some Dylan moniker. There we go. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's what I'm talking about. When I was much younger, and I was on my roll, I was working on the market on First Avenue when I was out on patrol. I was putting up the columns of this beautiful building to be seen all over Seattle, you know? We were blowing off steam.
My name is Jeff Johnson, along with Karen Richter. Yeah, we serve as the co-presidents of PSARA, Teachers and Advocates for Retirement Action. You know, we're here today along with co-sponsors, the Physicians for a National Health Program, Healthcare is a Human Right, Grandmas for Race and Class Equality, the Backbone Campaign, the Poor People's Campaign, and at least 10 million other organizations throughout this planet. They're here in spirit. So I want to thank you for giving up part of your summer day, beautiful day, right, to be with us, to rally, to protect and strengthen traditional Medicare. This is the 58th birthday of Medicare. And for that time, for the taxes and premiums we paid in, it's delivered for us. It's delivered good, solid health care for seniors and the disabled. But I want to tell you, traditional Medicare is under threat. It's being attacked right now, and it's being attacked by corporate America. They see Medicare, traditional Medicare, as a profit center, and that's not right. That's just not right. We've seen reports over the last couple decades that about $20 billion a year is defrauded out of the Medicare system and into the pockets of private insurance companies and corporate America. Well, folks, we got to stop that. We got to raise our voices to Congress, to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Innovation, and say, no, we want to strengthen traditional Medicare, and at the very least, we need to level the playing field, right? Yeah, we need to level the playing field. We have to have health, we have to have vision, hearing, and dental in traditional Medicare. You got to get rid of the punitive 20% copay for traditional Medicare patients, and we need to cap the out-of-pocket expenses. So that's really all I'm going to say. We've got a great lineup of speakers for you today that are going to go into more detail, get you fired up, and tell you what you can do. And so our first speaker, she's a great friend of ours. We love her. We've been working with her for 30 years. Pramila Jayapal. She's a great friend of PSARA, right? She started what has become the leading immigrant rights organization in the state, One America. We supported her then for running for the state Washington State Legislature in the Senate, where she served proudly, but that wasn't good enough. She's an organizer, she's an advocate, she's an educator. So she said, I want to run for Congress, and she did, and she blew the doors down, right? So she represents the Congressional District number 7, right? But that's not all right? Because she's the chair of the Progressive Caucus in Congress, right? So she's a champion for all the causes that we hold dear. And I want to tell you, there's no one fighting harder to deprivatize Medicare than Pramila Jayapal. And there's no one, well, she and Bernie Sanders working as hard as they can to get us Medicare for all. Please give a big welcome to our friend, Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal.
Good morning. How are you, Seattle? Are you ready to make sure we take back our Medicare, strengthen and expand it? Now, listen, I want to first start off by saying thank you so much to my dear, dear friend, Jeff Johnson, to PSARA, to the entire coalition of organizations that are here. I will tell you something. When I'm in D.C. and my good friend Alex Lawson is here from Social Security Works, we work so closely. Thank you, Alex. When I'm in D.C., people say to me, do you know this coalition of organizations like this group PSARA? They are so amazing. They are right on this. They are leading the work. And I will just tell you that all of these organizations that are here are really looked to for leadership across the country. And so many of the creative ideas come out of here. And I just am so grateful to all of you. So let's give it up for this incredible coalition of organizations. I also just have to give a big shout out to my sister who is up for election for the county council today, Teresa Mosqueda in the house. And she's been such a champion on healthcare and on Medicare for all and so many other issues. Now listen, most of all, I want to thank you all because this fight for Medicare for all, for an expanded, really expanded Medicare for all that allows us to get the healthcare we need when we need it, without copays, without deductibles, to stop the private insurance companies from privatizing traditional Medicare. You are the reason that this fight is even happening. You are the reason that this is something that people are paying attention to across the country. So I want to thank you for being out here. Give yourselves a round of applause because this is democracy in action. It's no secret that our healthcare system is broken. This is what I ran on when I first got to Congress. I am so proud to be the lead sponsor of Medicare for All in the House of Representatives. And the reality is we live in a time where the average American spends more than $12,000 per year on healthcare, and more than half of Americans, both insured and uninsured, hold medical debt. How is that possible in the richest nation in the world? A time when the thought of medical debt is enough to just stop people from seeking care. One of the things that really surprised me is I started looking at what happens when people actually get into Medicare at the age of 65. Cancer rates spike. You know why they spike? Because there's so many people before they get Medicare that never go to the doctor, never seek assistance because they can't afford it, because it is not possible for them to do that. So they wait for Medicare until they can get to see a doctor with that coverage. But although Medicare is critically important to our healthcare system and one of the most popular programs in America, we are here because we know that it is under serious threat. And I just want to make one thing very clear. I will fight the privatization of Medicare tooth and nail. You will not see me going down without a fight. And they have all kinds of pretty named programs that they're putting out there. But let me be clear, whether it's ACO REACH, whether it's Medicare Advantage, these are privatizing Medicare, and they need to be ended. They need to be ended. These are programs that trick people into getting worse coverage for more money. For almost 2 years, I've been calling on CMS to end the Trump-era ACO REACH program. And while we've made some strides on it, we are really, really disappointed that it is still going. It is still going. They've ended some of the worst pieces of it, but the reality is it is still a way for those private insurance companies to get their teeth into your Medicare. So the reality is that we've had some wins. It's only because of this movement, but CMS has not yet heeded our call to end the program. And I think it's important that we recognize that there's another big threat, has been for some time, and that is Medicare Advantage. Now, we've had a tectonic shift on Medicare Advantage. When I got to Congress, there was a letter that went out every year, in fact, led by and signed by many great progressive colleagues of mine, to expand Medicare Advantage, really talking about what a great program it was and why it was important for seniors to have. And this year, we were able to do something really different. With our 103 members of the Congressional Progressive Caucus, we were able to work with our partners and our allies to do a whole panel that educated our members about what Medicare Advantage really is and how it takes advantage of seniors and pulls you in. And once you get in, you can't get out. And all of a sudden, you are trapped with coverage that costs more and delivers less. And for the first time this session, we were able to stop that industry-backed letter. It did not go out. Our colleagues did not sign on. And instead, we were able to get a letter of our own with dozens and dozens of members of Congress because of the work that you and this movement did across the country to get people to say Medicare Advantage is privatizing Medicare, and we will not stand for it. So 70 lawmakers signed on agreeing that we need to enforce prohibitions on Medicare Advantage plans denying prior authorization requests. 70 lawmakers said that these Medicare plans should cover any medical provider that accepts Medicare and covers care. And of course, we need to hold Medicare Advantage accountable for increasing care costs. Just recognize that if we took the $46.5 billion with a B, that Medicare Advantage programs overcharge the government for, we could plow that back into expanding Medicare. We could give people dental, vision, and hearing. We could eliminate copays and deductibles instead of subsidizing these private insurance companies. So momentum is growing for us, but you know, I'm not going to lie to you, we've got enormous mountains that we're fighting, and a lot of it is big money from big private insurance companies, but we are starting to move the needle. And I'll tell you how I know that. This year, we have almost half of House Democrats as original co-sponsors on the Medicare for All Act. And we have members of Congress who represent some of those big private insurance companies who are for the first time talking to me about signing on to Medicare for All. That is because of you. That is because of you. And we're not done yet. We have a lot of work to do. But right now, we have a Democratic White House. We have a Democratic Senate. And we don't have the House. But there are things that this administration can do to make sure that Medicare Advantage does not privatize traditional Medicare, and that we continue to expand and grow Medicare and ultimately get Medicare for all. Because healthcare is a human right. Healthcare is. Thank you all for being a part of this movement. Let's get this done. Thank you, everybody, for being here.
Give it up again for Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal. Let's also give it up for her in-state Chief of Staff, Rachel Berkson. So I want to say this too, for anyone that leads an organization or is part of an organization that would like education on Medicare, please, PSARA, we've got folks ready, willing, and able to do this. So please, let us know what you need. I don't know how many of you have noticed our corporate octopus over here, okay? But there it is, and it lists just some of the corporate villains, Humana, United Health, Big Pharma, so on and so forth, that are not just digging into our Medicare, but digging into our wallets. And, you know, we have a local corporate villain that's also a part of this, and that's Amazon, right? Amazon spent nearly $4 billion buying One Medical, which has a subsidiary called IORA, both of which make a ton of money off of Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and ACO REACH. So why are they doing this? It's projected in the next 5-6 years that annual Medicare expenditures will reach $1.6 trillion annually. Think about that, $1.6 trillion a year. That's a lot of moolah to grab a hold of, right? Okay, so pay your respects to the corporate octopus before you leave today, all right? Let that octopus know what you think. And while I introduced her while she was upstairs, I want to introduce her while she's downstairs. Karen Richter, come on out here. She's the other co-president of PSARA. She was leading a delegation upstairs.
Yeah. I would like to bring Ann and
Nice.
Rick and Chase. Come on up here. Come on up here. There she is. These are wonderful PSARA members. You may have met them, you may not have, but I encourage you to get to know them today. So we had a meeting with Senator Cantwell's outreach coordinator, Josie McKinley, and we felt that she was very receptive to what we had to say. She didn't even know who PSARA was until we contacted her. Then she went out, she did a whole lot of research. She's read all our newsletter articles about this topic in the past year. So she was briefed on what we had to say and what our message was. We gave her a copy of the resolution that was recently passed by the Washington State Labor Council, and her ears really picked up when she heard that too. So I thought it was a pretty good meeting. We're going to continue on, and
I will just say that I'm grateful to be part of this organization, which cares about everyone, whatever your age, whatever your background, whatever race, gender, ethnicity. This is the organization that is showing its love for everyone. I just want to say, let's keep up the fight. This is going to be a long road, and it's just great to see everyone here. I think we've got the ear of lots of folks, and we have a Representative Jayapal on our side. So let's keep it up.
Second what Jayshree said, we definitely need to keep up the hard work because we got a lot against us. And as Representative Jayapal said, there's money that we're fighting, a lot of money. And I'm kind of a poster child for all the bad things that can happen when you take Medicare Advantage. And if you read The Advocate, you've seen my story. I just want to share one last thing. It's something new that just came up, and that's that I just got a letter from my primary care provider who said, oh, things are changing. We're just purchased by a venture capitalist company. And folks, you probably have heard that because they really see the potential for getting a lot of money out of Medicare, that they're buying up practices that focus on elders. So really, be prepared. Talk to your friends. Wake people up. They don't know what's going on. A lot of people have no idea the difference between Medicare Advantage and traditional Medicare. And we need to tell them. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen, Rick, and others. Rick just mentioned a venture capitalist buying up his physician's practice. So these venture capitalists want to take Medicare recipients on that adventure that you don't want to go on. So again, tell it to the corporate octopus. So look, our next speaker is another great friend of PSARA, and she's kind of the counterpart in the state to Congressman Pramila Jayapal. It's Teresa Mosqueda. So we, give it up for Teresa. Teresa, we first met her when she worked for the Children's Alliance, and she specialized in healthcare issues and was in part responsible for getting the Children's Health Insurance Program passed in the state. We hired her as legislative director and then made her political director of the Washington State Labor Council. And she did a phenomenal job of helping to weave the labor movement together in the state. But, you know, she wanted to do more. And so in 2017, she ran for the Seattle City Council and she won, and she's won again. And if she ran again, she'd win again, but she's running for the King County Council, yeah? And today is election day, so cast those votes, yeah? But you know, she has all along been a champion of workers' rights, immigrants' rights, poor people's rights, and healthcare rights, and also protecting the houseless. So I want to introduce our great friend, our great advocate, a great organizer, Teresa Mosqueda.
All right, let's give it up one more time for PSARA and Jeff and Karen and all of the members of PSARA who brought us here today, and the incredible allies in the coalition who make it possible for that Washington to hear this Washington. Let's give it up for the Backbone Campaign, Physicians for Our National Health Program, woo! Puget Sound Advocates for Retirement Action again, woo! Our grannies who are fighting against racism and for equity. There is a Human Rights Coalition and so many more who are part of this broad effort to say hands off our Medicare. So this is a birthday, right? We're supposed to be celebrating and singing happy birthday, happy 58th birthday to Medicare. And yet, again, another year has come and we are out here demanding hands off our Medicare. How many of you have been here year over year fighting the same corporate greed? Let me hear you. We are sick. No, literally, we're sick and we need better Medicare and we need their hands off our Medicare to improve it. Not only protect it, but expand it. Hands off our Medicare. We're sick and tired of having to come out here and have the same fight year over year. I want to celebrate Medicare. I want to sing happy birthday and I want to celebrate its expansion. How about you? So, you know, the reason that we come out here year over year is because Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security that were passed 58 years ago were the great equalizers. This was one of the largest infusions into creating a more equitable society 58 years ago, along with Medicaid and Social Security. That is what we accomplished 58 years ago. But equalizing our economy, equalizing society, guess who hates that? Corporations, capitalism, CEOs, millionaires, private insurance companies, and those deep-pocketed venture capitalists. Boo! So it's no wonder that we're out here year after year trying to fight the piracy against our Medicare. The corporations who don't like equalizing access to health care. The private insurance companies and those venture capitalists who want to carve away more of those protections in the public policy that allows for our community to be healthy, for retirees and workers to have access to basic services. That is so wrong. In the country that is the richest country in the entire world. That is wrong. And we are here to fight for what is right, what is our right, and that's healthcare, because healthcare is a human right. So as our Congresswoman said, no matter what they call it, no matter how you disguise it, we can see through that corporate greed. No name, no cutesy acronyms, no thinly veiled title protects it from what it is. It's privatization of our public good. And we say no. No to robbing, no to raiding, no to stealing, and no to privatizing Medicare. So in addition to fighting to protect our Medicare systems, and let's add to that Medicaid and Social Security while we're at it, we want to strengthen and expand it. Because I don't know about you, but my eyes are connected to my body, and comprehensive health care should include vision. Am I right? Our mouths are connected to our bodies and critical to our physical health care. Am I right? And our mind and our bodies cannot be disconnected. I want comprehensive health care for everyone in Medicare. I want to get rid of the 20%, what's it called? Copay. 20% copay, and I want to eliminate the caps on out-of-pocket expenses. Am I right? We have a champion, and that is led in D.C. by our good Congressperson, Congresswoman Jayapal. Thank you again for all of your work in D.C. and on the Progressive Caucus for leading on healthcare for all. And we have a champion right here in Washington State, and that is all of you. Every year we are out here. This group grows and grows, and our message continues to strengthen. You are making this movement stronger. You are making sure Washington, D.C. hears Washington State. We will continue to say it until it's a reality. We want Medicare and Medicaid protected. We want to expand and enhance our Medicare services. And you know what? We want health care for everyone. We want everyone in and nobody out. That's what we'll continue to work to accomplish. Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody in, nobody out. Everybody in and nobody out. Thank you.
Somebody had to do it. I guess it had to be you. Right there on the big TV, tearing a picture of the vote. Challenging the overstuffed assumptions of our brains. Nothing like a little reality to go against one. Now Sam was the driver. The jumpy ran a clown who used to love to make people laugh. He had a heart attack driving on the viaduct with no way to get off of that pad. He said, I need a little help to wheel up here, whatever little help you give. And all together they pulled it over, saving everybody's life but his. Everybody rides the bus. Everybody that goes. Everybody rides the bus. Everybody bangs the ride. Now my friend Annette, she's singing the blues and she's blowing her mom a bit too. But it's hard to make a living around here these days in this six-figure hullabaloo. So if you drive about 5 days out of 7 on the other two screwed. The wheels on the way of the dog. That's just how we're rolling. And everybody rides the bus. Everybody rides the bus. Everybody rides the bus. And everybody bangs the ride. If you want my autograph, because I like the way you play the car, go ask the bus driver first. Get down there, get to that car, and everybody rides the bus. Everybody likes us. Everybody rides the bus. And everybody bangs. Everybody rides the bus. Everybody likes us. Everybody rides the bus. And everybody bangs the ride.
The executive director of Social Security works. He advocates and organizes. He educates on improving economic security for seniors and the differently able, through strengthening Social Security and Medicare. Our next speaker is Alex Lawson. He directs and owns We Act Radio and We Act YouTube channel. He meets monthly with our Social Security Works Washington. When we want to find out hard information on Medicare and Social Security, we go to Alex. Alex, it's our great honor to have you with us today. Thank you.
Oh, how much fun it is to be in this Washington. Thank you for having me. My name is Alex Lawson. I'm the Executive Director of Social Security Works. Let's start with just recognizing how amazing Pramila Jayapal is. You all have a fighter fighting for you and all of us every day in her. And you know what she gets for that? The absolute hatred of the billionaires, those venture capitalists, the corporate insurers, and all of them spend as much time as they can trying to defeat her. But you know what she's got? Us. She's got the people. They might have money, but we've got people. So I want you all, again, to recognize that none of this happens without you, that everything that we have accomplished is because of you. And I want you all to give yourselves a round of applause for getting us where we are today. And I will do my Where Are We Today, but first I want to just do a little deviation from what I usually talk about to one of my favorite genres of political articles that you see. And I'm sure you've all seen them. If you haven't, just Google it. But have you ever seen those articles where they're like, why do the French live longer than Americans? And then they have their like, the French smoke more cigarettes and they drink more wine. How are they living so much longer than Americans? And then they go through a bunch of things and they're like, it's probably the long walks that they take, right? Or they're like, why do Canadians live longer than Americans? Is it the poutine that they're eating? We just can't figure it out. Why does America, the richest country in the history of the world, have the lowest life expectancy of all of our peer countries? You all tell me, what is it? No health care. Do you think it's possibly the fact that only in our dumb system do people not go to the doctor until they cannot not go to the doctor? When they initially get sick or they feel something, their first thought is not, I need to do what I have to get well. Their first thought is, I hope I don't bankrupt my family. That is a shame on our country. And they're right. That's the thing. They're right. In this country, a person with a cancer diagnosis, 80% of people with cancer diagnosis have exhausted their life savings within 2 years. That is a shame on our country. And why? Why is our system set up this way? Is it broken? Do you all think that it's broken?
Yeah.
It's not broken. It's not a healthcare system. It's a wealth extraction system. It's functioning exactly as it's supposed to. But what it does is not keep us healthy. It keeps us sick for profit. They delay and deny our care to kill us for profit. That's how they make money. Do you know who they delay and deny care to the most? Those who need it the most. Why? Because from their point of view, on their computer systems, those are the most expensive people. They want to provide health care to those who don't need it and deny people who do need it. Do you all remember, do you all know why Medicare was created? Do you remember or read the stories? Was it an act of benevolence? That's rhetorical. No! It was because the insurers wouldn't insure people over the age of 65 because their actuaries said you can't make money insuring people over the age of 65. So they just didn't have anything. And at that time, we still had almost 1 in 3 seniors living in poverty until Medicare was created. It was not because of anything other than the failure of the corporate insurers to provide health care that we created Medicare. But now, 58 years later, we're in a little bit of a different place. I hate disagreeing with, and he's not disagreeing, I hate being on a different place than Pramila Jayapal, but she was using one-year-old numbers. She said $41 billion ripoff, but the latest numbers, the latest numbers, $75 billion in overpayments last year. Does anyone here know what the entire budget of the EPA is? It's $8 billion. Really get that into, I have it written down, it's right here. The federal prison system, $7.8 billion. Environmental Protection Agency, $8.7 billion. The Federal Bureau of Investigation, $9.8 billion. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, $16.7 billion. Medicare Advantage overbilling, $75 billion. That's a shame on this country. And yet in DC, I have to sit there and people are like, look, we'd love to add vision, hearing, and dental and long-term care, but how are we gonna pay for it? How about we stop getting ripped off? We stopped getting ripped off. 2 years and we got $150 billion. This isn't a choice. This isn't there's no like, oh, well, on the one hand, we should let people die. But on the other, these CEOs definitely need another golden yacht. These private equity guys need to be making billions of dollars a year. We are up against evil. There's no other way to describe people who will kill people for profit. And that's what we're talking about. So obviously, stop the overpayments. Let's stop getting ripped off. Let's take that money and put it back into traditional Medicare. Let's add vision, add hearing, add dental, add long-term care, and out-of-pocket cap. Why do people have to pay 20%? The only reason they did that there's that hole, that gap in Medicare, is because the billionaires drilled the hole in it. Let's fill that hole. Let's guarantee health care for every person in this country. If you get sick, you get the care that you need. That's not rocket science. Every other peer nation of ours can do it. We pay the most for the worst health care of any of our peer nations. And it's time to stop that. Now, right now, I do want to say, unfortunately, we are losing. We are losing on protecting Medicare. For over a decade, it's just been more and more and more people coming into the Medicare Disadvantage program, which are just corporate insurers. And the only reason that they do it is they know that they can get $75 billion in overpayments, and they're allowed to delay and deny care. They're allowed to kill people for profit. That's what Medicare Disadvantage is. That's why they're coming back in, because they're allowed to delay and deny care, and we have to stop that. We have to stop that. I want to talk about a little smaller things that we can do immediately, and Congresswoman Jayapal brought them up. We need the Biden White House to, they know the delay and denial rates of all of these plans. Do you know how many Medicare Disadvantage plans there are? Because there's 4,000 of them. So to pretend that there's one Medicare Disadvantage is part of their game. There's 4,000 different plans, and they have different rates of delays and denials. Some of them are as high as 33%. 1/3 of the claims are denied. But who had to go through the process when they chose between traditional Medicare, Medicare Advantage, and then all of the different plans? It's incredibly confusing, and nowhere along there do they say something like, if you choose this plan, 33% of your claims might be denied. Oh, and by the way, you might die because of that. If you have a chronic illness, you're almost certainly going to be hurt by the delays and denials, and you might be killed by them. We just had last week a day of action. We had 100 seniors come to DC to fan across the hill and talk to their lawmakers. And we had a woman join us whose father was killed by United Health, by an algorithmic denial of care. So not only it's obscene that there's any delays and denials, but this was the robot. It was just an automatic delay and denial. They could not figure out what human to talk to. It's like if you get locked out of a social media account and there's no phone number to call. That's the even worse future, where they just automatically delay and deny, and you can't even figure out how to, who to call to challenge that. That's an obvious one that we need the Biden administration to stop. Absolutely. We're going to keep working until there's no more delays and denials, but no robots should ever be in charge of our healthcare. No algorithm in charge of anyone's healthcare. One single doctor for each medical intervention. Because before the algorithm, they just had doctors denying people 60,000 claims at a time. I'm not going to rest until the private insurers are gone, because they do not deserve to exist. They're parasites. All they do is take our money and deny our care. But there are things that we can accomplish right now, and we have to forcefully demand them. No more delays and denials by algorithm in Medicare Advantage. The Biden administration could do that with a stroke of a pen. Everybody should know every single delay and denial rate of every single Medicare Disadvantage plan. It should be printed on the website. CMS knows that. They hide it from us. The Biden administration could change that with the stroke of a pen. These are things that are entirely doable today. And working together, I am positive that we can do it. But what do you all think? Can we get this done? When we raise our voices together, they cannot ignore us. Thank you so much for letting me talk with you today.
Who's Medicare? Who's Medicare? You're damn straight. All right. Look, our next speaker, I don't see him, so hopefully he's in the shade and about to come out. But our next speaker, we're really honored to have with us today, is Claude Burfect. He's a great friend of PSARA. He was an inspirational labor leader with the King County Central Labor Council, former vice president of the NAACP. He's a current board member of Healthcare as a Human Right. Please give it up for Claude Burfect. There he is. All right, Claude.
I want to thank PSARA for having me here today to speak on this topic of Medicare and Medicaid Advantage. I also want to thank my good friend Pramila Jayapal, who kicked my butt when we ran for the state senate. And I want to thank Teresa Mosqueda, who I endorsed for the city council position. Today, I want to talk a little about Medicare and its intended purpose. You know, when I look back and see how this country has changed, I want to show empathy, but I feel ashamed. I'm ashamed because this country has made so much progress. To see the regression of the past few years. Trust me, I'm not here to give a history lesson, but we do need to know a little about our history on Medicare. Before we talk about Medicare, we need to give a shout out to former President Lyndon Baines Johnson. During President Johnson's term in office, the president signed two major pieces of legislation. In 1964, he signed the Civil Rights Bill, and in 1965, he signed Medicare into law. Some of you might not know this, but Medicare, it is now 58 years since 1965. It was signed on July 30th by President Johnson. This is why we are here today, because the past few years, they have destroyed an insurance that was designed to provide medical assistance to almost all Americans 65 years and older. I said I didn't want to give you a history lesson, but in order for some of us to understand, I do have to let you know how Medicare and Medicaid got started. Medicare and Medicaid were enacted as Title 18 and 19 of the Social Security Act, providing hospital, post-hospital extended care, and home health coverage to almost all Americans aged 65 and older. For example, those receiving retirement benefits from Social Security. Also, we must remember, Social Security was providing states with the options of receiving federal funding for health care services for low-income children, their caretakers, relatives, the blind, and disadvantaged individuals with disability. At the time, seniors were the population group most likely to be living in poverty.
Today, we are celebrating the 58th birthday of Medicare and Medicaid. Today, Medicare and Medicaid have now gotten into the hands of large private insurers and Wall Street. Those profiteers, legal pimps that are pimping the American people. They are profit and threatening the very foundation of Medicare and Medicaid. The private Medicare insurance plan make more than double the gross marginal profit per patient compared to any other kind of health insurance. How did we get into this kerfuffle, or should I say predicament? The big question is, how did Wall Street take over Medicare? The Biden administration expansion of new insidious forms of profit, Medicare is benefiting private equity firms as well, connected healthcare giant. The Biden administration recent entrenchment and expansion of the Trump administration effort to privatize Medicare is helping to shadow a set of big business beneficiaries, private equity firms, and major healthcare companies, including one that previously employed the government's official overseeing the privatization plan. In recent years, the Biden administration contacted with 53 third-party companies to mandate privatized health care plans through Medicare. The resulting health care options are effectively Medicare Advantage plans, or private coverage offered through the National Health Insurance Program for seniors and with people with disabilities. Patients are being assigned to these plans without their consent. Mind you, the initial 53 participating companies that I'm talking about is called direct contracting entities, DCEs. These contracting entities are allowed to offer benefits beyond traditional Medicare, like gym membership coverage. But let's be mindful, is the profit business that we receive a set of payment from Medicare, no matter how much care they approve, these DCEs are incentivized to limit care that patients receive, especially when they are sick. The first DCEs were launched by President Donald Trump in 2019, and so far, at least 350,000 seniors have been moved onto these privatized Medicare plans. Wall Street's encroachment into Medicare is the latest example of private equity aggressive expansion into healthcare, which has ranged from hospitals to ER doctor groups. In 2021, private equity managers deployed $172 billion in capital in the healthcare sector, nearly 4 times the total budget of the National Institute of Health. President Biden himself has lambasted the private industry's takeover of elder services, noting during his State of the Union address in March of this year. As Wall Street firm takes over more nursing homes, quality of those nursing homes has gone down, costs have gone up. President Biden apparently does not have the same concern as we do about Wall Street growing role in Medicare. This is a development that could lead to higher medical bills for patients. The financial industry has already demonstrated its willingness to take a forceful approach to generate the health care profit. As private equity muscles into privatized Medicare, industry lobbyists are likely to push for more generous payment structures that benefit for-profit firms at the expense of Medicare patients. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a lot of evidence from many other situations in which private equity put profits before patients. Private equity are looking for a place where it is easy to make money. It is easy to make money when it's the taxpayers footing the bill. I would like to look back a little and talk about the DC and the ACO. While the DCE programs were launched under former President Trump, President Biden expanded the efforts under a new name.
So our last speaker, I just met him this morning. His name is Bryce Walker, originally from
Access and Community Health Program. Now, hospitals back-for-profit health benefit programs are also allowed to automatically enroll Medicare patients into their health care plans, like providers of Medicare Advantage plans. These new firms receive a set payment for Medicare for their offering supposedly to incentivize acquired Medicare patients in their plans, often without the patients realizing what is happening. Ladies and gentlemen, the historic bill, Medicare, that was put into law back in 1965 by LBJ, that we're celebrating 58 years, has now gotten into the hands of large private insurers and Wall Street corporations. These privateers, I call them legal, plan to make more than double the gross marginal profit per patient compared to any other kind of health insurance. A study this past June by the University of Southern California, Jayapal, Institute for Health Policy and Economics, found that private insurers will be this year. I just want to say thank you for the time, and we need to at least make a concerted effort in contacting our congressional leaders in the state of Washington. We have 8 Democratic congressional leaders. We need to make sure that they are aware and they are going to do something about getting Medicare back to where its original status was. Thank you very much.
Who's Medicare? Who's Medicare? Our next speaker, wonderful, wonderful individual, great friend of PSARA, great friend of us, Cindy Domingo. She's a lifetime organizer, activist, educator for workers, women's rights, democratic rights. She has sit on the boards of the Church Council of Greater Seattle, LILO, APALA. She sits on the board with me for Essential Workers for Democracy. She's a co-founder of the U.S. Women in Cuba Collaborative. She took a bunch of us to Cuba a few years ago. We learned so much. She's an amazing, amazing person. Cindy Domingo.
Thank you, and I'll make this short because we've been standing here in the sun for a long time, and I'm so glad the birthday of Medicare is in the summertime, so we aren't standing in the rain. Just want to point out my APALA friends and members. Who's holding the banner here? Eunice Howe, who's our Seattle chapter APALA. It's an honor to join you here representing LILO and APALA Seattle as we celebrate the 50th birthday of Medicare. It was a victory for all working people, and especially those that have been denied health care their whole lives, the poor, elderly, and people of color. It was a victory that organized labor put their muscle behind, as well as the civil rights movement, and it is a victory that we need to celebrate always because the movement, our movement, won that victory. And as Frederick Douglass said, power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did, and it never will, and that's why we're here today. When I retired right before the pandemic, one of the main fears I had was trying to figure out my health care. I was used to my wonderful King County health care that I had for 26 years that was coupled by my husband's health care from the city of Seattle that covered family medical, dental, and vision with very little out-of-pocket costs. It was the reward of public sector jobs that we all fought for. But the fear of losing that health care coverage to a world of choices of Medicare and Medicare Advantage programs with ads and mailers and the mailers up the yin-yang scared me to the point of paralyzation. The amount of Medicare Advantage flyers were only matched by the amount of television advertising that I saw. It has only been my interaction with PSARA and my reading of articles in the Retiree Advocate and the webinars on the privatization of Medicare that has given me clarity on the issue and solidified my commitment to save Medicare and to stop the privatization of a right we won 8 years ago. And I'd say my meeting with Robbie Stern furthered my understanding of the problems with Medicare. But clarity and then a strategy to fix this nightmare doesn't come easy, as we've all heard the speakers. For so many, this confusion about our Medicare system is so widespread, and marketing makes us believe that we need to buy a Medicare Advantage plan, always at a high cost. And that is why, as quoted in PSARA's Friday Seattle Times ad, that we need to stop the overcharging of private companies that reap in $75 billion. We demand that private insurance corporations stop raiding our Medicare, and we demand our congressional representatives, like Pramila Jayapal has been doing, fight for this. That is what we're doing here today. We need to build a movement to stop the insurance companies from profiting off the Medicare system. We need to educate all communities in their languages and empower people to understand how the insurance companies have constructed a system that impacts the most vulnerable that depend on Medicare and Medicaid. And most of all, we need to fight for Medicaid for all that operates without the involvement of insurance companies. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cindy. So our last speaker, I just met him this morning. His name is Bryce Walker, originally from Spokane. He's a member of Physicians for a National Health Program. He's a medical student at the University of Washington. He's in his last year. We're looking forward to him doing his residency and hopefully locally here. He's done a lot of work with underserved communities and has a sense of the struggles they face when dealing with the privatized healthcare system. Bryce, it's an honor to have you with us here today.
How's it going, everybody? Still got some energy? Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here. A big thanks to Physicians for National Health Program. They offer an amazing amount of mentorship, an amazing amount of education for students like myself. I'm in my third year of medical school at University of Washington. There's things that they don't teach us much of, and that's how the insurance industry works and how it works in other countries as well. And that's big thanks to Physicians for National Health Program. I'm part of Students for National Health Program nationally, working right now to try to neutralize single-payer verbiage at the American Medical Association, making a lot of progress, and as we all know, up against a pretty big fight. I'm going to use my notes here because I want to tell you a little bit about my experience so far, what medicine means to me, and what healthcare means to me. Over the last couple of years, 3 years I should say, I've spent tons of time here in Seattle, caring for a number of different patients. I've gotten to help deliver babies, newborn babies right here in Seattle. I've gotten to help say goodbye to our neighbors suffering from terminal illness at the number of hospitals here in Seattle. I've seen a range of different types of patients. And I have to look back right now on my last year and ask myself what I've learned throughout that whole experience. And I think here's the things that I've learned. I've learned that there's nothing that I'd rather be doing with my life than playing that role with my patients. I've learned that human life is very fragile, very resilient. Human life is a fragile thing. I've learned that human life is precious. And I think that I've also learned that medicine and healthcare can be a great connector of humanity. I think when it's done correctly, it's a beautiful thing. It's something that prioritizes the dignity of our patients and our neighbors, something that prioritizes the humanity of our patients and our neighbors. I don't think that vision is shared by the privatized insurance industry that continues to siphon billions of dollars in publicly funded healthcare dollars with nothing more than prioritizing profit. So when most of us see healthcare as this incredible honor to participate in, These insurance industries don't see much more than lining the pockets of their shareholders, making more profits for their large investors and their corporate funds. So these direct contracting entities and now Medicare Advantage, they're working hard with these enormous insurance agencies. They're draining billions of dollars from traditional Medicare to generate corporate profits. This benefits the insurance industry. This benefits their shareholders. It does nothing for our patients. The way it appears to me, it seems to be nothing more than a way of diverting publicly funded healthcare dollars into an industry that carries financial incentive to ensure that healthcare never becomes universal in this country. And I can tell you firsthand about the many experiences I've had and my colleagues have had with patients sick enough to be hospitalized or injured, terrified about the amount of costs they're accruing for the conditions that they have. So I ask again, what have I learned? I hold this for the practice of medicine in such a really high regard. I think it's an incredible privilege and an honor to participate in. I've seen incredibly strong men and women care for their loved ones dealing with dementia near the end of their life. I've seen newborn babies in the arms of their terrified and yet elated moms right here in Seattle. I've seen individuals not much older than myself die from terminal illness and deal with that with incredible grace and incredible strength. And throughout all of this, throughout all of that time, I estimated it last night, over 3 years, I've seen probably almost 2,000 different patients. Throughout all that time, not one person has spoken about the benefits of their privatized insurer. I've never heard it. No one's ever spoken about how much they love their private insurance. These people are in the hospital or they're seeking health care because they're sick or because they don't want to become sick. And we all get sick, and eventually we all need help. So I'm hoping that everybody here can work with these wonderful programs that came so that we can do our best to remind Washington, D.C. and our representatives across the country that these are our neighbors, these are our family members, these are our aunts, our uncles, our sisters, our brothers, our spouses. They're not for profit. Illness is not a liability. So try to use your voice as much as you can. We'll all work together and hopefully we can create a better future for that. Thank you very much. Go ahead and get the Physicians for National Health program. It's time to add your voice. You've got plenty of surveys, petitions to sign over here. QR code, you can do it. Thank you so much.
I don't know about you, but that's the kind of doctor I want going into the future. Yay, Bryce, thank you so much. So as Jim and Joe make their way up here to play more music for us, to lead us out, I just want to repeat the themes for today. Something you take back, talk to your Congress folks about, talk to the White House about. First of all, we want all the money that's been stolen from Medicare, that Medicare has been defrauded, the hundreds of billions of dollars returned to the Medicare Trust Fund so that it can fund expanded benefits, right? We want to eliminate the excessive administrative costs and profits allowed in the Medicare system. And finally, not least, we want to improve benefits within Medicare. We want vision. We want dental, we want hearing, we want long-term care. We want to make sure that there's no 20% copays, and we want to cap out-of-pocket costs. With that, thank you so much for coming today. Jim, Joe, take us away.
When the good rain finally came and stood out on the cover, watch the dry and drink it up like a long snow. We opened up our senses to let it in. Felt so good to feel like rain. And if you love the water, let it wash away the reasons left for me. If you love the water, a long time ago, the world was young. The innocent life beneath the sun. The desert flowers in the wild plantain, waiting for the weather to bring rain. And if you love the water, let it rain. Time is such a fleeting thing, you know, come and go. It ebbs and it flows. The waterfalls and rainbows. And if you love the waterland, don't you the reasons to explain. If you love the waterland, there was a time we kept ourselves apart. Everybody drowned inside. Life is not your mystery, they say. So I guess you're different nature. And if you love the waterland, Jesus to explain. If you love the waterland, if you love the waterland. Thank you. Thanks a lot, folks.